What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Talking with News episode 148, the Core 4 Weekly News. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the U.S. men's national team because the rosters have dropped for the March team. Plus, we got NHL trade deadline to talk about because we got a lot of moves there. And the Orioles are bringing back an old uniform, so we're going to talk about that. But first, let's head into the NFL. So this week is free agency market opening. It opened up on Monday. A lot of teams have re-signed players, traded players away, and signed new ones. So we're going to go into every team's big signings. I will put a picture on all their signings that I have written down that are confirmed. But I will only mention the ones that I think you guys probably should know, especially for you audio listeners. It's going to be a lot of names, a lot of positions, a lot of teams. But let's get straight into it. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals, they have re-signed Zay Jones and a couple of other players. They have newly signed edge rush Josh Sweat, a couple other players as well. 4 years, $76.4 million. Great signing by the Cardinals. Hopefully that one ends up going pretty well for them. We head to Atlanta. They re-signed a couple players, nothing too crazy, and have signed Divine Diablo, 2 years, $14 million. For Baltimore, haven't done too much. They re-signed Ronnie Staley, left tackle. Buffalo, they released Von Miller, but have re-signed Josh Allen to a very big contract extension, 6 years, $330 million. 250 of that is guaranteed, the largest guaranteed money given out in NFL history. He still has 4 more years left on the contract he has right now, so that's kind of surprising, but I think they're anticipating that market for the quarterbacks to go higher up, and then maybe look back at this, and Josh Allen is pretty much a steal, being a top 5, if not better, quarterback in the league. But between now and when that contract's going to be signed, there's a lot of time that something could bad happen or could really good happen. So it could be a very good contract. We could look back at it as a very bad contract, but I think for Buffalo's sake, it's going to be a very good contract once that time does come. For Carolina, they have released Miles Sanders, which is not very surprising. Sanders has not done too much last couple of years, but they have re-signed their cornerback J.C. Horn, 4 years, $100 million, which is $70 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. Then we get to Chicago. They traded for 2 offensive linemen, Jonah Jackson and Joe Thunley. I think it's actually huge because the quarterback situation in Chicago is all Caleb Williams, yet Caleb Williams did not have any time to really do anything last year because of how bad the offensive line was. He was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. So I think getting this offensive line more power hungry and bigger is definitely going to be huge there. So I think that's huge trades for Chicago. And they went out and signed a couple good players. They signed a new centerman, Drew Dahlman, 3 years, $42 million, making him the second highest paid center in the league. So they definitely have gone and boosted that offensive line. So that's huge for the Bears there. For Cincinnati, they pick up T. Higgins on a franchise tag. This is huge. I think Higgins is a very good wide receiver. Definitely not wide receiver 1, but I definitely think he knows his role in the Bengals system, so I think that's good there. And they signed Mike Gesicki again. He'll come back for the tight end spot. For Cleveland, they trade for Kenny Pickett. This is probably going to be the new quarterback here in Cleveland. I expect him to be the week 1 starter, Kenny Pickett there. They traded away Dorian Thompson-Robinson, so there's no competition really there besides Deshaun Watson, and we don't know really the state of that, where they have him in the depth chart, whether they're going to play him at all. I'm not too sure. But that is just something to note there. Kenny Pickett going to the Browns. And then they also have re-signed Myles Garrett. I mean, this is huge. Garrett expressed his opinions on how he doesn't really want to be there in Cleveland anymore. He wants to go to a team that's more of a contender. Cleveland still is not a contender at all, but giving him $40 million AAV, $123 million guaranteed. It's kind of hard to say no to that kind of contract. This contract also makes him the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL history. This also includes a no-trade clause through 2030. So I think Garrett's stuck in Cleveland pretty much for the rest of his career, because I think once that 2030 hits, he might not be the same player as he is now. Hopefully he is, because I think Myles Garrett is probably one of the best defensive linemen in the league, and I think especially ever since Aaron Donald had left the league and retired. So Myles Garrett in Cleveland, kind of surprising, but money talks. For Dallas, nothing too crazy for them. A couple re-signs, and then they also picked up Solomon Thomas for 2 years, $8 million, and they got a new running back, Javonte Williams, 1 year, $3 million. For Denver, they bring back Jarrett Stidham and DJ Jones, but they signed Ufunga and Greenlaw from the San Francisco 49ers, 3 years for each. Ufunga gets 45 mil, Greenlaw gets 35 mil. I think this is a huge signings. I think they're going to prosper very well in Denver. I think Denver's going to love those two players, especially because I think the Niners should have picked them both back up. Ufunga has had injury problems. That's going to be the one thing to keep an eye out. Same with Greenlaw. He's had a little bit of injury problems, but regardless, very good defensive players. It's definitely going to help out that Bronco defense a lot. For Detroit, nothing too crazy. They do pick up DJ Reed, cornerback, 3 years, $48 million. For the Green Bay Packers, nothing too crazy here. They bring back Brandon McManus. That's going to be a pretty solid kicker for the rest of the season for the Packers there. For Houston, they actually did a lot of moves. They have re-signed a lot of players. They have signed a lot of new players. If you guys are looking on the YouTube channel. But the ones that I want to note, they traded for Christian Kirk from Jacksonville and CJ Gardner-Johnson from Philadelphia. I'm actually very surprised that CJ is going over there, but I think it's going to help out the safety situation there in Houston. I think it's going to make it a lot better there, a little bit more depth. And Christian Kirk, wide receiver, who knows what Stephon Diggs is going to do? He still has not signed with any team, so maybe he's going to be the new Stephon Diggs. I think this could work out, but Christian Kirk, I haven't seen too much ever since he has signed that contract with Jacksonville. So that one's kind of iffy there, but they didn't really give up too much in that. So I think it's going to be a very low cost, high reward kind of thing for the Texans. Now for Indianapolis, I'm happy that they went out and got a new quarterback, Daniel Jones, 1 year, $14 million. We'll see what happens with Daniel Jones there, but I don't think it's going to cost him too much, to be honest. I think there's a good situation here with Jones. Being the quarterback, we'll give him 1 year. Maybe it's going to be something good. Maybe it's nothing, but I like the signing regardless. They also got Charvarius Ward, 3 years, $60 million, and Cameron Bynum, safety, 4 years, $60 million. So some pretty good signings there to note for the Colts. For Jacksonville, just a lot of signings, no really big re-signs or big trade assets coming in. Nick Mullins being one of those, quarterback, 2 years, 6.5. And Patrick McCarry, offensive line, 3 years, 37.5. A lot of other ones, but those are the top two that I would like to note. Kansas City, they re-signed Trey Smith and Nick Bolton. Hollywood Brown also comes back as well. So a couple good names getting back into that lineup. And then they also have signed a couple other players. Elijah Mitchell, running back, 1 year, $3.5 million, is also on that list. For the Vegas Raiders, they have traded for Geno Smith, so they got their quarterback for next season, reuniting Pete Carroll and Geno Smith together in Las Vegas. I don't know. I think it could work. I'm not very high on Geno Smith. I think he had a couple solid games last year, but overall, to me, it just wasn't very special of a season, especially coming off of that year before. So I think Geno could work out, but I don't think Vegas got much better. They did get Max Crosby back, though, as a re-sign, so that's huge, helps the defense there, as Crosby was probably one of those guys that everyone was circling, that if they didn't get Myles Garrett, they'd go out to Crosby. Unfortunately, Crosby and Garrett both re-signed with their current team. So I think Vegas got a little bit better looking at their signings, but it doesn't really excite me at all. I don't think they're going to make playoffs based off of this roster right now. The Chargers, a lot of re-signs, including Khalil Mack. That was actually a very surprising one. They released him, and they have re-signed him to a lower-end contract, but I think it's going to work out. I think Khalil Mack's a very good player. I think he's got a little bit more left in the tank. Not one of the best edge rushers in the league anymore, but I think the Chargers definitely could use them very well, especially because what they did last year with them. And they have picked up Najee Harris, running back, 1 year, $5.25 million. I think it's a pretty good signing. I like Najee a lot. I give him a lot of props, but he just hasn't really done much in Pittsburgh. Maybe a change in scenery will help him. Maybe the Chargers got him. They also have released Joey Bosa. He signed with the Buffalo Bills. Did not include that in the Bills talk, but I think it's going to be a really good signing for the Bills there. I really like that Joey Bosa is going over there. Contender, big time for him. For the LA Rams, most likely they are going to release Cooper Kupp. He has not made a trade. It has not materialized at all. And it sounds like if it's not going to materialize, they're going to release him. So expect Cooper Kupp to be released pretty much in the next couple of days, I'd figure. But they have re-signed or reworked Matthew Stafford's contract and have re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. So they got that 1-2 quarterback system there. So most likely Aaron Rodgers will not be going to the LA Rams. They have signed Devontae Adams and Poona Ford. Adams got 2-year, $46 million, and Ford 3 years, $29.6 million. So I think it's actually pretty solid. Not a lot of moves from the Rams, but I think the roster that they have right now is actually pretty good. It made it to the playoffs. So I think keeping that most of the core is going to help out the Rams next season. For Miami, nothing really too crazy. I think the only one that I'd like to note, offensive line, James Daniel, $3 million, $24 million. That's a new signing there for the Dolphins. For Minnesota, they lose, they did not lose. They were going to lose Aaron Jones, everyone thought. They actually re-signed him, so Aaron Jones is coming back. I think that's a huge keep for the Vikings there. And then they picked up a couple of offensive and defensive line guys, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen on the defensive side, and on the offensive side, Will Fries and Ryan Kelly are coming to the squad. So really booster that offensive and defensive line for the Vikings. For the Patriots, a lot of new signings, but not a lot of re-signings. Austin Hooper, as of right now, is the only re-sign, but a lot of new guys coming in. Milton Williams, 4 years, $104 million defensive tackle, is definitely the biggest signing for the Patriots of all of them there. For New Orleans, they bring back Chase Young, which could be good, and they also have signed Justin Reed, 3 years, $31.5 million. For the Giants, they bring back Tommy DeVito, Darius Slayton, and Jamie Gillian. I think DeVito is not a starter, so I think that they could still be shopping for a number one, which could be Aaron Rodgers. We have not seen him sign anywhere, but it could be Aaron Rodgers. Slayton could be something, but I don't think he's all that great. I think Malik Neighbors definitely is number one there, so I don't think Slayton's going to get a lot of touches with Neighbors being in the lineup, but keep an eye out for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Giants. For the Jets, they signed their new quarterback, Justin Fields, 2 years, $40 million. And to be honest, this kind of hurts me. I like Justin Fields a lot when he was in Chicago. He wasn't given a good coaching staff or a good roster. And when they did get that good roster, it was because Caleb Williams was coming to the squad. So Fields got the back end. Went to Pittsburgh and actually played pretty well at the beginning of the season. Was benched for Russell Wilson. I did not think that was a good move for the Steelers. And I think Fields has a lot more left in him, but I don't think the Jets are going to get the best out of him. I wish he went to somewhere else, but the Jets, maybe it could work out, but hopefully it does. But I'm not very high on that signing there. Philadelphia, as we mentioned, they traded away Kenny Pickett, so they got Dorian Thompson-Robinson in that as well. So I think Thompson-Robinson, good backup, kind of similar to Jalen Hurts' style. He runs a lot, but I don't think it's going to work out too much when it comes to him getting playing time. But there's that. And Saquon, we already mentioned before, he got re-signed 2 years, $41.5 million. For Pittsburgh, they traded for DK Metcalf, then signed him to a 5-year, $150 million. I think this is a great pickup, but who's going to be their quarterback? We don't know. They have not signed a new quarterback yet. Russell Wilson is still on the market, so maybe they're trying to work something out there. Maybe Aaron Rodgers comes in. I do not know, but Pittsburgh does not have a good quarterback in the system, so maybe DK, this is going to be all of a waste, but hopefully not with DK and Pickens there. Could be a good situation with a 1-2 wide receiver mark there. For San Francisco, they did a lot of nothing, a lot of releases, a lot of no re-signs here. They released Kyle Juszczyk and Leonard Floyd yesterday, and they re-signed Patrick Taylor and Jordan Mason, but have not done much when it comes to the signing. A lot of depth guys, but not a lot of starters. So I don't know what the Niners are trying to do moving forward, but not looking too good for the Niners free agency. For Seattle, they picked up Sam Darnold, so that's going to be their quarterback for the next 3 years, potentially 3 years, $100.5 million for Sam Darnold. I think it's actually pretty good. I think he definitely needed to re-sign somewhere else, and not with Minnesota, because I think based off his year last year, he's going to get the bank, and who knows if it's going to work out, but I'll give him 1 year. I think Sam Darnold's got maybe one more good year in him, but hopefully he's got some options, because it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of wide receiver options in Seattle next season, so we'll have to see there. Tampa Bay, they bring back Chris Godwin, pretty nice pickup. And they pick up Hassan Reddick, 1 year, $14 million. Let's see if he actually plays, but as of right now, I figure he does. So kind of quiet offseason for Tampa. For Tennessee, nothing too much. I will say they got offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr., 4 years, $82 million. And lastly, Washington, they made some good pickups. They got Deebo Samuel in a trade from San Francisco and Laramie Tunsil, left tackle. I think there's a pretty good pickups there. They re-signed Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz. They bring back their kicker Zane Gonzalez, forks up Zane Gonzalez, and they get new signings of Javon Kinlaw, 3 years, $45 million. Will Harris, 2 years, $8 million, and Marcus Mariota comes back as a backup role for a 1-year contract. So I think Washington actually did very well in this free agency. They might be one of the best of those teams, but only time will tell, obviously. But I think Washington did a good job boosting that roster around Jaden Daniels. All right, let's head to the NHL now. We'll start off with trade deadline talk. There was 24 trades on trade deadline, 47 players included, and 28 total picks. But let's just talk about the notable ones, the ones leading up and on trade deadline. So we got a couple. We're going to try to go through them pretty quickly since we took a lot of time with the NFL free agency talk. So we'll start off with the notable trades from trade deadline area. Yanni Gordon and Oliver Bjorkstrand goes to Tampa Bay along with Kyle Ukon and a 2026 5th-round pick. Seattle in this gets a 2025 second-round pick from Toronto, a conditional 26 first-round pick, which is top 10 protected, and a conditional 27 first-round pick, which is also top 10 protected, and Michael Isamont. Detroit also came in this one, a third team to help out with the Yanni Gourde contract. They get 25% of Yanni Gourde's contract and a 2025 conditional 4th-round pick, which will be the higher of the Edmonton or Tampa Bay picks. Seattle also retains 50% of that contract from Yanni Gourde. I like this pickup a lot for Tampa Bay. Boosters their offense, gives them a little bit more depth. I think they won this trade very bigly. And Yanni Gourde is already a loved player in Tampa Bay, so I think it's going to work out perfectly for Tampa Bay. So really good pickups there for them. Michael Bunting goes to Nashville along with a 2025 4th-round pick in exchange for Luke Shen and Tommy Novak. I think everybody was for sale for Pittsburgh. They actually even shipped Luke Shen off, I believe, to Winnipeg. So to me, Pittsburgh didn't really do too much here. I think Nashville won big, getting Bunting and a 4th-round pick for that. Brian Dumoulin goes to New Jersey. Only 50% of his contract is coming along with them in exchange for Herman Traft, for the signing rights of him, and a 2025 conditional 2nd-round pick, the better of the Edmonton and Winnipeg picks. I think Anaheim won big here. Brian Dumoulin played very well in Anaheim this year. This is the only reason why I'm bringing it up, because Anaheim is involved. I think Dumoulin is going to help the defense in Jersey, but I do not think Jersey is going to make playoffs. I will explain that later, the reason why. But Anaheim, I think picking up a signing rights kid and a 2nd-round pick, I think is huge, especially for a 1-year rental signing. I did not think Dumoulin was going to stick around the whole year, and I think based off of their defensive core, they had to get rid of a defensive guy to get some of the young guns to play more often, and unfortunately, I think Dumoulin was that pick, so I was not surprised to see him go. But I think Jersey picked up a very good defenseman in this. Riley Smith heads back to Vegas, only 50% of his contracts coming along with them, in exchange with the Rangers for Brendan Brisson and a 2025 3rd-round pick from San Jose. I think Smith coming back to Vegas is awesome. I think Riley Smith's one of the loved guys in the Vegas community, and I was very surprised to not see him sign or them re-sign him when he went to Pittsburgh, and they traded him away, but it's not surprising also because Vegas does this a lot. But bringing back Riley Smith, I think definitely helps the depth of the forward position there. Florida and Winnipeg swapped goalies. Florida picks up Capo Kakinen, and Winnipeg gets Chris Drieger. I think Kapanen going to Florida is going to be a great backup, especially since Spencer Knight is gone and went to Chicago for Seth Jones. I think Kapanen is going to be a very good backup. I think Drieger is okay, but I definitely only see him as an AHL starter, not too much of an NHL starter. Could be a good backup for Winnipeg, but we'll see. I think Florida definitely boosted their goalie situation there. Brock Nelson and the Avs are collided now. Brock Nelson gets 50% of his contract to come along with him and William Defoe. The Islanders pick up Callum Ritchie, Oliver Klington, a 2025 or 2026 conditional first round pick, which is top 10 protected. It will shift to 2027, and a 2028 conditional third round pick if Colorado wins the Stanley Cup and Nelson plays 50% of their games. I think Nelson coming to the Avalanche is actually not surprising at all. Avalanche have been a really big buyer, especially because they lost Mikko Rantanen in a trade. But I think looking back, they really actually are going to like that trade, losing Mikko, especially with all that situation with him. So I think Brock Nelson is a good rental. I do not expect him to stay next year. Edmonton picks up Jake Wallman from San Jose in exchange for Carl Berglund and a 2026 conditional first round pick, which is top 12 protected. It will shift to 2027 if Edmonton trades their pick before the deadline. They did not trade their pick, so it will be a 2026 unless it's in the top 12, obviously. But Wallman is a very good defenseman. In the first game I saw him play with Edmonton, he's already throwing the body around. I think Wallman's going to be a very big asset for the Oilers' success, and I think that's a very good pickup for Edmonton. I think it's a very good trade for San Jose as well, since they're not going to do anything. Might as well get a first-round pick out of it, so very good trade for both sides. One of the bigger trades on deadline, Dylan Cousins and Josh Norris swap places. Ottawa picks up Dylan Cousins, Dennis Gilbert, and a 2026 second-round pick in exchange for Josh Norris and Bernard Docker. I think Buffalo is in a situation where they're not going to look good at all, really. I mean, I try to say it as nice as possible, but Josh Norris is a little bit more offensive-minded compared to Dylan Cousins, but what Dylan Cousins has been doing the last, I think, 2 or 3 games now that he's been in Ottawa, he's been scoring, so maybe he helps Ottawa with that playoff push. Maybe Josh Norris helps Buffalo with their success down the line, but I think as of right now, Dylan Cousins helps out Ottawa more than Josh Norris helps out Buffalo. So we'll see what this does down the line, but really good pickup by Ottawa in my eyes. Scott Laughton helping out the offensive core in Toronto. Him, a 2025 4th-round pick and a 2027 6th-round pick, goes to Toronto. Philadelphia picks up a conditional 2027 first-round pick, which is top 10 protected, and Nikita Grebekin. I don't know too much about Nikita, but Scott Laughton, I think, could help out the offense there. I think it's just going to be a rental, though. I do not see him signing again with Toronto, but it just doesn't really excite me either. I don't think that's a very exciting trade, but I thought might as well note it. Mikko Rantanen on the move again. He goes to Dallas. Carolina picks up Logan Stankoven, a 2026 conditional first-round pick, which is top 10 protected, shifts to 2027. 2028 conditional first-round pick, top 10 protected, shifts to 2029. A 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 third-round pick. I think this is a great trade for both sides. I think Stankoven's a good asset going back to Carolina. I think Dallas looks a lot better now with Rantanen, especially with that LTIR money. Definitely going to booster that team a lot. I really like these here. But I heard words that Toronto had offered Easton Cowan, Fraser Minter 2 first-round picks, plus an 8-year, $13 million contract to Mikko. It was declined. I don't know whether that was Mikko's choice or Dallas or Carolina's choice. I'm not too sure, but that was supposedly offered from Toronto. There was also talks about Mitch Marner being a part of this trade. I think Marner has a no-trade clause, and he said no to that. So Toronto tried to make a move for Mikko Rantanen and make a signing there, but Mikko and the Carolina Hurricanes had declined that. So definitely interesting, but I do think Dallas got a lot better. Watch out for them on the playoff run. And now we have the yard sale of the Boston Bruins. Charlie Coyle goes to Colorado with a 5th-round pick in 2026 in exchange for Casey Middlestat, Will Zellers, the signing rights to him, and 2025 2nd-round pick from Carolina. Boston definitely sold everybody that pretty much had value, and they did pretty well when it came to the picks. I think they could have done better when it came to all theirs, but Coyle is going to be missed. The big one, Florida and Boston making a trade. Brad Marchand and 50% of his contract goes to the Panthers in exchange for a 2027 conditional 2nd-round pick. The condition is if Marchand plays 25% of Florida's games over the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the pick will become a 2028 first-round pick. I think it's very surprising to see Brad Marchand not be in a Boston uniform. Some people are saying, well, is this going to be a rental? He's going to sign with Boston after that. I do not think that's the case. I think Boston had really messed up this contract extension with Brad, and I think because of that, even though Brad would like to go back, you could tell he wants to go back to Boston. I don't think they're going to make a deal. So I think either Florida's going to get him for maybe a little bit more expensive than he would have liked at Boston, but I think Brad going back to Boston is over. I do not see that happening. But this is the first time since 2003 that the Bruins will not have either Chara, Bergeron, or Marchand on the roster for the team. So very weird to see, but the new age Boston Bruins with David Pastrnak and maybe even Casey Middlestat is going to have to do something big. But I do not see him making playoffs at all, especially after the yard sale here. And the last one they made was with Toronto. Toronto gets Brandon Carlo and 50% of his contract in exchange for Fraser Minter, 2026 first-round pick, which is top 5 protected, and 2025 fourth-round pick from Philadelphia. I think Carlo is a very good defenseman. I think Toronto needs better defensemen. I think Carlo could help that out, so we'll have to see with that when it comes to the playoff push. And the last one, Ottawa and San Jose make a trade. San Jose gets Noah Gregor, Zach Ostapchuk, and a 2025 second-round pick in exchange for Fabian Zetterlund, Tristan Robbins, and a 2025 fourth-round pick. I think getting that second-round pick and the 2 players for San Jose is huge, especially because, again, they're not making playoffs. They don't look very good. Getting that team younger and getting a lot of draft capital, I think, is going to be huge for the San Jose in the future. And Ottawa, helping out their offense, helping out that playoff push, I think is good. Zetterlund is definitely going to help that out offensively. So, big pickup for both teams. I think both teams are going to let very satisfied here. Now, other news, we got some contract extensions. We'll start off with Columbus. They got Matthew Olivier for 6 years, $3 million AAV. Buffalo extends Jordan Greenway, 2 years, $4 million AAV, and Jason Zucker, 2 years, $4.75 AAV. Utah extends Valimaki, 5 years, $4.75 million AAV. Alex Kerfoot to 1 year, $3 million, and Ian Cole 1 year, $2.8 million. They also have put Connor Ingram into the NHLPA Player Assistance Program, so he will be out indefinitely. So Vejmelka will be the starter moving forward. Detroit extended Austin Watson 1 year, $775,000. Florida signed Jesse Puljujarvi, same terms there. New Jersey extends Jonathan Kovacevic to 5 years, $4 million AAV. Dallas extends Wyatt Johnson 5 years, $8.4 million AAV. Love that contract. I think Wyatt Johnson's a great player. I think it's going to be a bargain once the cap goes up. And then we get into the injuries. Jack Hughes of the Devils will be out the rest of the season with shoulder surgery, and I think that's going to be the reason why the Devils are not going to make playoffs. They did not make any moves to help fill in that spot, since he did, obviously he's going to want an LTIR, so that could have been a lot of money to help out with making a trade. They didn't make any trades offensively to help out, so as of right now, I do not think the Devils are making playoffs, which could be a hot take because they're in a playoff hunt right now, but I do not see them getting past a lot of other teams, so that's unfortunate there. Florida, their big defenseman, Aaron Ekblad, is suspended 20 games without pay for violating performance-enhancing substances. So that's tough there. Washington's Alex Ovechkin netted his 886th goal, which gave him point number 1,600. He's 11th player to hit this mark, and now that goal puts him in the single-digit mark against Wayne Gretzky's record, which is absolutely astonishing. It's going to be awesome to see that. I definitely think he's going to break it this year. Now the question is, will he break it in a less amount of games than Wayne Gretzky did it? I do not know. I hope so. I think he's down to maybe 8 games, 9 goals, so he's going to have a couple multi-goal games moving forward, but I think it's possible for Ovechkin here. And lastly, Minnesota's Marc-Andre Fleury moves into second all-time in NHL starts with 1,015, only trails Marty Brodeur for that, and he's not going to catch him. Brodeur, 1,251 games started for him. But Fleury, he's not slowing down anytime soon. I really do think he could play more games, but it seems like this is his last year in the league, so it's definitely going to be a tough day when he announces his retirement. All right, let's head to the MLB. We'll start off with injury news, which unfortunately we have a lot. Houston's Christian Walker flew back to Houston to undergo an MRI on his left oblique. He had that problem last year with Arizona, so hopefully it's nothing lingering. Seattle's George Kirby will start the season on the IL with shoulder inflammation. Baltimore's Grayson Rodriguez will start the season on the IL as well. This time it will be tricep soreness and elbow soreness, so that's unfortunate news there for Baltimore. The New York Yankees, Garrett Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery and miss the entire season there. So Max Fried contract is looking really good right now for the Yankees as they lose Garrett Cole for the whole season. The Mets, Francisco Alvarez will be out 6 to 8 weeks, with a surgery to repair his hamate bone in his left hand. And Boston's Lucas Giolito left his last game in spring training due to left hamstring tightness. So that's tough news for all teams there. The Dodgers have extended Dave Roberts to 4 years, $32 million, highest AAV contract of any manager. So that's huge. I think the Dodgers definitely like Dave Roberts. Seems like he knows what he's doing. There's been a lot of talks about them firing him. Definitely did not think that was the right move. So big contract there. I definitely think well deserved. The A's extend Lawrence Butler 7 years, $66.5 million. I'm not too sure if this is going to be a good contract. Don't know too much about Lawrence, but I guess we'll see. It seems like the A's are now making a lot of moves when it comes to the money situation. Over $220 million spent in this offseason. So the A's are definitely looking to try and win some games now as they move out of Oakland and into Sacramento. MLB pipeline rankings for the farm systems of all the teams have dropped. And let's get into the top 30. Number 1, Detroit. Number 2, Tampa Bay. Number 3, Boston. Number 4, LA Dodgers. Number 5, Seattle. Number 6, Chicago White Sox. Number 7, Milwaukee. Number 8, Chicago Cubs. Number 9, Cleveland. Number 10, Minnesota. Number 11, Cincinnati. Number 12, New York Mets. Number 13, Washington. Number 14, Pittsburgh. Number 15, Baltimore. Number 16, Miami. Number 17, Philadelphia. Number 18, Colorado. Number 19, Texas. Number 20, St. Louis. Number 21, the A's. Number 22, Arizona. Number 23, Kansas City. Number 24, the New York Yankees. Number 25, the San Diego Padres. Number 26, Atlanta. Number 27, Toronto. Number 28, San Francisco. Number 29, Houston. And lastly, number 30, the Los Angeles Angels. That's tough to listen to, being an Angel fan, but also when you look at the farm system, not very surprising. So that is the top 30 farm systems going into the upcoming season for the MLB. Baltimore has released a new uniform. It's a new orange on orange uniform, which they used to have, I think, back in the 80s, maybe even the 90s as well. It's an orange jersey with the black Orioles font across the front and the black number on the front and the back, along with the nameplate as well. Orange pants on this one, a black hat with the classic bird logo with the orange bill on the front. For me, I give it a 7.3 out of 10. I think it looks good. It's a lot of orange. I hope they don't use it too much. Because I think it would look really good in night games. But I think it's a good uniform overall. It's a lot of orange, but I do like it. And last thing to note, we have the 2026 World Baseball Classic teams. They are officially set, and here are the teams. Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada, Panama, the United States, Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, Japan, Australia, South Korea, Czechia, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Netherlands, Israel, Nicaragua, Chinese Taipei, Colombia, and Brazil. So that will be your teams going into the 2026 World Baseball Classic. I'm very excited for that. I went to the last one in Arizona. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the tournament's a lot of fun. Hopefully the U.S. get past Japan this upcoming tournament and get the win, but only time will tell. Japan obviously is going to have a great team. USA is going to have a good team. The DR, Mexico, going to be great teams as well. A lot of good teams in there. But a couple teams I'm very excited to see. I'm curious on what Chinese Taipei is going to do. Brazil got in there. Italy might make a good push this upcoming time. Czechia got a lot of news last time. They weren't good, but they got a lot of news. Maybe they clean it up and get a couple more wins in that tournament. So a couple teams very excited to see going into that 2026 World Baseball Classic. All right, let's head to the cleanup. We'll start off with NASCAR. Christopher Bell won his third straight race. He was at the Phoenix Raceway this time. He won the day race last year at this place, and I actually attended that one. That was a very awesome race to go to. Christopher Bell won his third straight race of the season. He's the first racer to do this in this generation of car, which I believe is the 7th generation of the top series car. I'm not too sure on that one, but I believe that's what they said on the broadcast. He's also the first to win 3 of the first 4 races since Kevin Harvick did it in 2019. So congrats to you, Bell. But here's the top 10 finishes. Christopher Bell at 1, Denny Hamlin at 2. They were good battle there. Kyle Larson actually made a good push at the end. He finished 3rd. Josh Berry at 4, Chris Buescher at 5, William Byron at 6, Alex Bowman at 7, Kyle Busch at 8, Zane Smith at 9, and Chase Elliott getting the top 10. He got 10th in that one. Then we got some F1 news. Cadillac will officially become the 11th team in F1 racing in 2026. So we will have 11 teams, 22 racers. So a couple more spots open for some new racers there. But I'm very curious to see what Cadillac's going to do if they're able to push forward in that department of being a contender maybe. So who knows? An interesting news, FBI's most wanted list has come out, and they are offering a $10 million reward for one of these people, and it's actually a past sports person. Former Canadian snowboarder Ryan James Wedding is wanted for allegedly running a drug trafficking operation, which allegedly involves shipping drugs from Colombia through Mexico, the US, and Canada. So very surprising. Did not know this was anything to be noted, but it was sports news. It was kind of wild news, but thought I would note it in the cleanup this week. So there's some FBI news for any of you guys that enjoy that kind of stuff. The Golden State Warriors' Steph Curry accepted a role with the Davidson College to be the assistant GM for the basketball program. This is his alma mater, obviously. He has actually become the first active U.S. major pro sport team player to take an administrative role in NCAA team. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of this. It's going to be hard to balance this, I think, for most athletes, especially when you got same sport athletes. I mean, I don't think there'd be a lot of different sport athletes to be taking roles, but I think it's going to be a little difficult. But I'm glad he's not the GM, and most of his time is dedicated towards either college or the pros. He, as the assistant, he could kind of butt in when he can. So very interesting there. Get to the world of golf. Tiger Woods announced that he has torn his Achilles and underwent surgery to repair it. For Tiger Woods, I think it's kind of tough news, especially because you tell he's always battling injuries. Most people's greatest all-time golfer. I would say definitely my most memorable golfer, I would say, remembering in the past. But hopefully he's able to recover speedy enough and get back into the golf courses. Now let's head to the U.S. men's and women's soccer news. We'll start off with the women's. Sounds like the U.S. is making a bid for the 2031 World Cup to host it. That could be something new, especially because they're going to get the 2026 World Cup along with Canada and Mexico. Maybe that boosters U.S. soccer, and the women's game getting hosted in 2031 could boost our soccer even more in the States. So only time will tell. But it sounds like they're going to try and make a bid for that World Cup. Now for the U.S. men's national team, the Nations League roster has come out for the CONCACAF Nations League. The goalies, we got Patrick Schultz, Zach Steffen, and Matt Turner, guys that we all know. Defenseman Cameron Carter-Vickers, Marlon Fossey, Mark McKenzie, Tim Breen, Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Joe Scally, and Austin Trusty. A lot of good names in there. Ream, Robinson, Richards, Carter-Vickers, everybody knows. Joe Scally's been in the lineup a lot recently too. For the midfields, Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardosa, Diego Luna, Weston McKinney, Gio Reyna, and Tanner Tessman. Really like what Weston McKinney's been doing at Juventus this season. I think he's definitely going to be a lock moving forward for any roster when it comes to the U.S. and important games. So I'm glad to see him in that roster spot. And lastly, the forwards, we got Patrick Agmenga, Yunus Musa, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, Tim Weah, and Brian White. Pulisic's been absolutely stellar at AC Milan, and him being at the forward position is definitely going to help out this team a lot. And he's Captain America. Obviously, he's going to be on this roster as well. So I'm excited to see what this team does against the Nations League. They got Panama first, and that's going to be in Los Angeles. I'll put up the dates because I can't remember off the top of my head. But definitely excited for those teams. But the U.S. men's ranked 16th in the world right now. They scheduled 2 friendlies coming up in June. On June 7th, they'll face the 28th ranked Turkey in Hartford, Connecticut. And on the 10th, they'll face the 20th ranked Switzerland in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, these are huge competitions. And the Nations League is huge because you're going to play against Canada, Mexico, and or Panama in that one. And being in a World Cup year where you have to qualify, but these 3 teams, USA, Canada, and Mexico, do not have to qualify. It's tough finding competition for them. So I think this is huge for those guys to get friendlies like this. It's against better competition than you're going to see for probably most teams that you could probably get friendlies for. So to get that, it's definitely huge. And having just over 450 days to find a roster, work into a best form or best fit for this team is definitely going to be tough, but getting these teams, Switzerland and Turkey, in there, I definitely think it's going to help that team confidence wise and kind of prepare them into that World Cup. So we'll see how they do against those teams, but it is on home soil. All right, games of the weekend. We got the NHL, the Ducks versus the Blues, Sunday at 3 p.m. on ESPN+. NBA, I got Knicks versus Warriors, Saturday at 5:30 p.m. ABC. NASCAR, we got the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Sunday at 12:30 p.m. FS1. English Premier League, Arsenal versus Chelsea, Sunday at 6:30 a.m. La Liga, Atletico versus Barcelona, Sunday at 1 p.m. ESPN+ and ESPN Deportes. Bundesliga, we got Mainz versus Freiburg. That is Saturday at 7:30 a.m. ESPN+. And lastly, the MLS, we got San Diego versus Columbus, Saturday at 7:30 p.m. All right, guys, that would do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. 148 episodes in the books. Core 4 was a lot of news this week. Hopefully it wasn't too long of an episode. Hopefully you guys stuck around for the whole thing. But watch out for later this week because we got the college weekly news, everything from college baseball, softball, hockey, and much more on that. So hopefully you guys check out that episode as well. So hit that like, subscribe, and the bell icon so you guys are notified when that episode drops. If you guys are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you guys, but go check out the YouTube channel. We got more episodes that do not include sports that you guys might want to go check out as well. So we appreciate you guys sticking around for this one. Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you guys later.